In this video, we're going to see how to create a simple main menu in Unity from scratch. We'll create two Unity scenes, one to use it as the main menu and the other scene to use it as the game itself. We're going to add background images, text, buttons, 3 buttons probably, one to load the game scene, another button to open some sort of credit screen, and the third button to close the application. We'll probably make a confirmation window. We'll also create a script that will handle the OnClick events of the buttons. And at the end of this video, you will get a simple main menu system that you can use as a starting point for any of your projects. Please subscribe to this channel and let's start solving this little project. This is a Unity project that I previously created using the universal render pipeline. And in this folder, we'll create all the necessary assets for our main menu system. So the first thing we're going to do is to create two Unity scenes. Right click here in the project folder, create, and then choose scene. Let's call this scene main menu. Okay, we can add a number 1 and create another scene. Call it game, for example. And to use these scenes in our project, we need to add it in the build settings window. So click here in file, go to build settings. Then using this button, you can add the scene that you have open. So let's open our main menu, add it to the build settings window, open the game scene, and also add it to the build settings window. The order of these scenes is important because Unity will load the first scene from this list. So it's important that we put the main menu first. Now let's open our main menu to make sure that it's the active scene. Could delete the directional light because this main menu will consist only in UI elements. We won't have 3D modes, just images, text, and buttons. You could also select the camera, change the far clipping plane, for example, to 20, change the background type to solid and choose a color for the background, but we will use images. Now, to create the user interface, you need to right click here on the hierarchy, go to UI, and then select canvas, create a new canvas. Then I suggest you select the canvas and inspector, go to the canvas scaler component and change the UI scale mode to scale with screen size. Set a reference resolution, for example, 1920 by 1080. Then also choose the resolution of the game window here. If you want to add a custom resolution, you could always add it using this button. But for now, let's use 1920 by 1080. Now let's add the background images. Right click here on the canvas, go to UI, and then click on image. So here in the inspector, in this field called source image, you can add our image to apply in this object. In this case, I have two PSD files. Let's add it to the project. You could use a different image format, for example, a PNG file. But the thing you need to do is to select your images. If you are going to use these images for the user interface, you need to set this texture type parameter into sprite. Also, as I'm using a PSD file, I'm also going to click this checkbox and then apply the changes. Now we can select our image object and take one of these images and drag it to this field in the inspector. That will apply the image to the object. Then you can set the size of the image using these parameters. This preserve aspect checkbox is useful to prevent the image from deforming. And the idea for this image is to cover the entire screen. So to do that, we could set the width or the height in 1920 by 1080. But another way to do it is to click on this icon and choose this option. And then make 0 all these values. That will make the image to expand to cover the entire screen. So it doesn't matter if your resolution is 1920 by 1080 or a different resolution, the image will cover the entire screen. So we could use this image as our main menu container. Press F2 and rename it like a new container if you want. And inside this object, we could add, for example, the buttons. Right click on this object, go to UI, and then select button dash text mesh pro. If it's the first time you're using TextMesh Pro, you're gonna get a window to import all the necessary files. If that's your case, I will leave you a video in the corner where you can see how to start using TextMesh Pro. But for now, let's move forward. This will be our start game button. Let's rename it accordingly. Start. Cool. Set the size of this button. Maybe a little bigger. You could also use a custom font to apply to this text. I will also leave you a video in the corner where we saw how to do that. Let's use this one. Start game. Let's create the credits button. Let's also create the quit button. Now, as you can see, I manually placed these icons on the screen, but we can use certain components that will help us to get a better result. In particular, there's a couple elements called horizontal layout and vertical layout that could be useful in this case. Let's select all the three buttons, right click and create an empty parent. Now we have this object that contains all our buttons. Let's add a vertical layout group. So this component will automatically align all the objects one below the other. I usually uncheck this hide checkbox, child force expand, that places all the elements right below the other. And you could also add a certain space between all the elements. But the idea is that this vertical layout group will automatically adjust all the childs. And if you, for example, add more buttons, they will automatically place one under the other. So let's call this object vertical container. Then let's change the anchor to the left side. Let's change the X pivot point to 0 so that the origin of this object is here at the left. Then if we write 0 here in the X position, this element will be touching the left side of the screen. Put 0 the Y position. So let's place it like there. More. Maybe make it. Oh, if we increase the space, these objects are not centered anymore. To fix this problem, you need to make sure that the size, the height of the container contains all the elements. So this white box is the size of the vertical container. We could increase the height until it contains all the three buttons. Let's make it a little bigger and then change the child alignment to middle center. And this way the three buttons will be vertically centered on the screen. So this is our basic main menu. I'm gonna repeat the process a little quicker to create our credit screen. Right click on the canvas, go to UI, create a new image, drag an image to this field, change the anchors so that the image expands to cover all the screen. I'm going to change the name of this object to screen. And for this window, let's create, I'm going to take one of these buttons, the start button for example, and press Ctrl D to duplicate this button and drag this new button as a child of the credit screen. And then we could change the anchor of this object to the bottom center of the screen. So if you set the X position and Y position to 0, the object will be placed in the bottom center. In this case, as the pivot point of the button is at the center, we have the half of the button below the screen. To solve this problem, we can set the Y pivot point to 0 and then make 0 the Y position again. We could also add a little space below and also make the button a little small. Let's change to close. Now let's also add a couple text. New text mesh pro. Let's change the pivot point, the Y pivot point to 1. Change the anchor point to the top center. Make this 0. Increase the width of this text. Center the text. Make it bigger. Make the height bigger. Make credits. Change the font. I'm gonna reuse the vertical container from the main menu. Let's select it, press Ctrl D to duplicate it and place it here in the gray screen. Delete the buttons and let's add this text as a child of this vertical container. I'm gonna also change the pivot point to the center and make the X component of the pivot point to 0.5 and the X position to 0. That way this container is centered on the screen. Now, name 1. And this way, if you duplicate the text object, you could add more names to the credits. Let's change this space to 10. In this case, the height of the text is also making the elements to be separated. There you go. That's enough. So we have our main menu. If we hit the credits button, the idea is that this window open, and if we hit the close button, this window will be closed. And if you hit play right now, you're gonna notice that the buttons doesn't work, doesn't make anything because we haven't configured them yet. Let's start by configuring the credits button, which is the easiest one in this case. So let's go here to the vertical container, go to the credits button, and in inspector, in the OnClick event, click on plus, and we're gonna take our credit screen and drag it to this field. Because we want to make, when we hit the button, we want to make this object visible, and to do it we need to check this checkbox somehow. And we can do it this way. In the OnClick event, we drag our object, and using this drop-down menu, we can go to Game Object and then choose this function called Set Active. So this is a function that is gonna set the active state of this object, and that state could be true or false. If it's true, the object will be visible. If it's false, the object will not be visible. In our case, as we want to make this window visible, we want to check this box. So when we press the credits button, the set active function will be called over this button with true as parameter. All that action will make the credits screen visible. And now we need to make this button to do the opposite. So let's go to here. This is the close button. Let's add a new element in the OnClick event, and let's drag the credit screen, and using the drop-down menu, go to Game Object, Set Active, and let's call the Set Active function with false as parameter. Now select the credit screen, turn it off, and if you hit play, now when you press the credits button, that window will be visible. If you press the close button, you go back to the main menu. So this is pretty much working. We already have a main menu with a functional credit screen. That's a nice opportunity to subscribe to this channel. So the next step will be to start the game, and by start the game I mean to load the second scene. This is scene from here. This represents the main scene of your game. And we also need to quit the application when we hit this button. Maybe we can create a confirmation window. It could be done in the same way as we did the credits window, just another window. For example, this confirmation dialog. Let's delete the source image and also the vertical container. Let's modify this text. Are you sure you want to quit? Button quit. Cancel. The same as before, if you want, you can place these buttons manually on the screen, but you can also create a horizontal layout group so that the component automatically centers the elements on the screen. And to do that, we select the buttons, right click, create an empty parent, and then to this parent we add the horizontal layout group. Could set this to middle center, and I will probably uncheck this box. As you can see, it's not center, but that's because this position is not 0. So let's maybe change the pivot point to the bottom center. Change this Y component from the pivot point to 0, and then just make something like that. Add a little space, the same as before. If you want that this object automatically centers, you need to make sure that the width of the parent contains the two objects. So we could, for example, use this option, which will set the pivot point at the bottom, but you could horizontally expand the container, setting the left and the right spaces to 0. The container horizontally covers the full space of the screen. I'm not sure, maybe I'm not explaining this correctly, but I think it's something that you need to experiment with. Try different options, try to change the values, try to change the pivot points, the X component, the Y component, and see the results so you can understand what makes each of these parameters. But for now, we already have our confirmation screen. We could also make this color to black and maybe lower this a little bit and change the text color to white. So the main menu normally looks like this. When we hit the quit button, it will look like this, a little darker. So now let's make our quit button the same as the credits button. Let's add a new element on the OnClick event, drag our confirmation dialog, select the set active function with true as parameter. Then in the confirmation dialog, the cancel button will do the opposite. Let's check the confirmation dialog, select the set active function with false as parameter, and then turn the confirmation dialog off. So now when we hit play and press the quit button, we get the confirmation dialog and we can cancel that action. So now we only have two buttons remaining, the start game button and this quit button that will exit the application. And to do that, we will need to create a script. So let's exit the play mode, right click here on your project folder and create a new script. Let's call it main menu controller, for example. So you could add this script to any object from the hierarchy as long as that object is active in the hierarchy. but I like to create specific objects that contain my scripts, and that way I can easily find them. And I'm doing it like this. Right click, create an empty object. Let's name this script -main menu. And also I like to place these objects at the origin of the scene. Now we take the script and add it to this game object. Let's open the script in Visual Studio. So could delete these functions because we're not going to use it, but let's define two public functions, and these functions will be called when we press the start button and the confirm quit button. Public void button underscore start game. This function will be called when the start game button is pressed. Then copy this and rename this part as confirm quit. If you're starting with Unity, you probably will face so many problems at the beginning, like you press the button and the functions when called the game doesn't start and you're not sure what's happening. So I'm gonna add a couple messages in the console so we can be sure that the buttons are working properly. So inside the start game function, I'm going to create the bug.log, then start button pressed, and here quit button pressed. Let's save this script and configure the buttons to call these functions. Select the start game button, add a new element in the OnClick event, drag the script, the game object that contains our script where we define the functions, and using the drop-down menu look for the name of the script. The name of the script we define, main menu controller. Inside we will find different options, but if you define this function as public, you will see them on this window. Here, for example, you have the button underscore start game and the button underscore confirm quit. These are the functions that we define in the script. So for this button, let's choose the button underscore start game function. Now, if we hit play and go to the console, let's clear the console and make sure that the messages the console are enabled. Let's press the start game button. As you can see, the message that we define inside our function is printed. That means the function was executed, and that means that our button is working. I'm telling all this because you could face so many problems, and sometimes something so simple as just print a message in the console could save you a lot of time. For example, let's suppose for some reason you remove or delete this event system object and you are not aware of this. In that case, the buttons will simply not work. And in that case, it has nothing to do with the functions. The functions are okay, but we casually remove some component that it should be present in order to detect click events on the screen. So in this case, if I right click here in the hierarchy, go to UI and add an event system again, now the button is working again. This was an example on how a button can fail. Now let's connect the button, the quit button from the confirmation dialog. This one here, cancel this one. On the OnClick event, drag the game object that has the script with our function, choose the button underscore confirm quit function. Let's turn this confirmation dialog off, hit play, and check that the button is working properly. As you can see, the quit button pressed message is printed. That means that our buttons are properly executing our functions. So we only need to add the instructions inside these functions, and we finish. The easiest one is this one, application.quit. This quits the application. This instruction doesn't work in the Unity editor, but if you compile the application and run it on Windows, for example, you will see that the function works. And now, to start the game, we need to load the next scene. If you go to the File and Build Settings window, you will notice here on this list, you will see a number, and this number is called the build index of the scene. So the first scene from this list has the index 0, the next one the index 1, and so on. So the idea is that we load the scene with the build index number 1. And to load a scene, you need to use this instruction: Unity engine.scene management.scene manager.load scene. And as you can see here, we can pass a build index as parameter, and this instruction will load the scene that has that build index. In our case, we want to load the scene with the build index 1. So this part from here, this is like a folder. It's called namespace. You could add this part here using Unity engine.scene management. So the instruction would be that you can directly use you can directly access to the scene manager and execute the load scene function. Both instructions will work. So we can save this script, hit play, and quickly test the button. As you can see, the start button loads the scene number 1. Let's create a standalone version to test it. Build and run. So here, as you can see, we have our awesome main menu with a credits window, a start game button, which loads the game scene. And if we press the quit button, we have the confirmation screen. If we press quit again, the application closes. Thanks for watching. That was all for this video. Here you have a playlist with all my Unity tutorials. You can use this button to subscribe to my channel. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.